deep in the bone forest, in the demonic palace of hate. The lord of the demonic palace of hatred, Tian, after a long study of magical writing. Today was the day when the breakthrough would happen. He had to take his last step in his practice. He only had to survive the final thunderstorm of eternity. It would raise his strength and beauty to a new level. With each passing moment, he felt his strength increase. He was very happy with his progress. But then he noticed the hair that he was so proud of falling out of his head. He didn't understand why this happened. He was practicing according to the magical scriptures. As all the hair fell out of his head, the sky opened up and white lightning struck the building where Tian was. The two girls who were in that palace heard a loud noise and ran to the scene. When they ran to the place where Tian was training, they saw some kind of skull flying along with lightning across the sky. Meanwhile, in the Taishan Palace, the head of the Mengxinji Temple was holding a demonstration to destroy the demons in Taishan Temple. Even high-ranking Western guests came to celebrate the event. The demon exorcism broadcast will begin right now. The head of the temple, with his magic, summoned a cosmic mirror through which he could communicate with the elder. When the mirror turned on, the elder welcomed everyone to this demon exorcism broadcast. The forest he was in now was called the Bone Forest. He seemed to have just heard a piercing scream. There must have been incredible evil. Then the guests asked, wasn't this forest home to a demonic palace of hatred? Before, dozens of their righteous path masters had laid siege to the palace of hatred, but they had been destroyed. And the deputy master admired Elder Wen Chenji for such an act. He had actually walked through the bone demon forest alone. The clan head and the elder whispered to each other. The clan head said that the heads of the main factions were watching him, let him do his best. Then the elder reassured Mengxinji. He said that before going into the forest, he moved all the magic weapons into his inventory so that he wouldn't be afraid when the demon lord came. Meanwhile, Tian was very angry. Today, he was supposed to turn into a handsome devil with long hair. But instead, he turned into some kind of skeleton. Who knew he was practicing the wrong technique? Almost crying, he stomped on this book that turned him into some kind of skeleton. As he was doing this, he remembered that it was Woof Woof who had gone to help him buy the books. When he turned around, he saw his subordinate who had jumped right into his arms. She didn't even notice how she sat on him. Sitting on him, she didn't even recognize her master, and asked the skeleton if he had seen her master Tian. But after sniffing, she still recognized him and pressed his face to her chest, because she was very happy to meet her lord. Just then they were spotted by the elder, who was walking along with the magic mirror. He had waited all his life for this moment. He had to destroy the demons and pay tribute to heaven. With those words, he rushed into battle against Tian and his handmaiden. Elder was very surprised when some simple skeleton stopped his magical attack with just 2 fingers. The whole thing was broadcast on the magic mirror, and the guests were surprised why the skeleton and the dog were still alive. Could it be that Elder Wuchenzi was showing mercy? Then the elder said that he was just warming up. The next blow, he would send him flying. Even though he responded that way to his guests, he still didn't understand how the skeleton could absorb his most powerful blow and still not die. If he screwed up again, the master would surely not spare him. To test their strength, he took some kind of mirror out of his pocket. Looking through this mirror at the skeleton and the dog, he found that his vitality and physical strength were at the level of a fish. After making sure that his opponents were weak, he decided not to use another weapon. Woof Woof was very worried about her master. But he reassured her and said that even if he turned into a skeleton, he is still a demon, and trash like this old man can't hurt him. The demon warned his maid to stay away so he could deal with this old man in peace. They both pounced on each other, and the elder used his most powerful punch he had in his arsenal. The explosion of that blow rang through the whole forest. Wuchenzi was very glad he didn't win that skeleton. Bragging to his guests, he said that this demon skeleton was smashed to pieces by him. But it wasn't that simple. As he rejoiced, the demon was at his back and was building up energy for his attack. When Wuchenzi turned around, the skeleton demon delivered its crushing blow. It burned off all of his clothes and left the elder completely naked. When the guests saw what was happening, they became angry and indignant. They had collected so many gifts to look at the old man's ass. They demanded their money back. The master tried to remedy the situation somehow. If he couldn't find an excuse for this ridiculous occurrence, it would be over. Then he told the guests that it was his fault for neglecting his intelligence, and he didn't expect it. The demonic palace of hatred unleashed an ancient demon. It must be Guabai. This Guabai must have just been released, and it needs to absorb the life force of the cultivator to restore its power. However, he warned his guests, no need to panic, their master will destroy him before he regains his powers and give them all an explanation. The only pity was that Elder Wuchenzi might not be alive by this time. When he was telling people this, he turned off the magic mirror so that no one else could see what had happened to his elder. Meanwhile, the skeleton demon felt that his strength had increased, most likely because he had practiced the technique. He found some contraption that the old man was wearing. He didn't know what it was for, so he tried it first. As he lifted the strange contraption, Woof Woof, praising him for being the strongest demon on earth, wanted to hug him. But it didn't calculate its strength and jumped on him and crushed him so that all his bones disintegrated. When he woke up, he didn't understand why he lost consciousness. When he saw his hands, he thought he was human again. But when he fully stood up and opened his eyes, he saw that he was now a soul. He began to blame the technique he had been practicing for years. He even threatened to kill the one who wrote this teaching. But suddenly he heard a woman scream. Strangely enough, there are only 3 people in the demonic palace, him, Meow Meow, and Woof Woof. As he approached the door from which the noise could be heard, he pondered. Maybe that someone had broken his magic circle and burst inside. As he approached the door, he had some ominous feeling. When he opened the door, he saw a girl sitting in the corner crying. The girl was scared of him and asked who he was. Then Tian said with a disgruntled face that he should be the one asking her who she was. The girl told him that she had been in the place too long and that the previous owner was an evil old man. As she was leaving, she wished him good luck and told him to turn around and look in the corner. When he turned around, he saw the armor of a demon dragon. This powerful ancient weapon lying around his house like rags? If it exploded one day, his whole palace might suffer. He probably didn't notice it because he was in a state of mind. When he touched it, he felt some inexplicable feeling. It looked like the soul was reaching for the body. It must be his flesh that Woof Goof brought to the palace. He urgently needed to go and look at it. As Mr. Tian was walking to his body, Gav Gav came running into the room to Meow Meow to report that the Lord had been wounded. So Gaw Gaw and Meow Meow came to the room where their master's remains lay. Mr. Tian was there too, but they didn't see him because he had become a spirit. Meow Meow asked, how did this happen to their master? Woof Woof replied that she didn't know, maybe the adults have some special hobbies. In short, the old man sneakily attacked him. And this skeleton fell apart. So what happens? Gav Gav says that after Lord Tian was killed and turned into a skeleton, he repelled the attack of the old man who came to stealthily attack. He did not expect the old man to leave a hidden weapon with amazing strength. Did Lordly Tian become like this because he was protecting her? Woof Woof was so loyal to her master that she wanted to avenge him and kill this old man. But Meow Meow stopped her. If Lordly Tian had become a demon, and even the master could not defeat him, how could they do it? She suggested they run away and find another way to survive. Still, they couldn't just leave him here. They wanted to bury their master's bones. They, as faithful servants, must help him return to the earth and give him new life. When they buried his bones, Lord Li didn't even feel the pull of his body, which only stopped stronger and stronger. But after they buried him in the ground, there was no change. Would he just accept his fate? As the maid stood by the grave, Gaga awakened a sudden appetite and by her canine instincts began to dig up Lord Li's bones. At this time, the master again felt some inexplicable feeling. It seemed that the soil was blocking the call of the body to the soul. And as soon as he realized this, his soul immediately flew to his bones. And as Meow Meow took the master's bone from Woof Goof, they both saw a hand sticking out of the ground. A hand began to slowly come out of the ground, and both girls were very frightened. And when the skeleton came out of the ground, they were so frightened that they could not even move. Already in the palace, as he sat on his throne, he scolded his subordinates. Because he heard them wanting to run away after they buried the bones. But most of all, he was angry at Woof Goof. She had forced him into a spiritual state and dared him to gnaw on his bone. But to protect her friend, Meow Meow jumped on her master and told him, "Isn't the spiritual form the highest form that Lordly Tian aspired to? Why is a sexy old bully like Li Tian back? Lordly Tian, in his spiritual form, seems to be free to travel anywhere. Isn't that convenient? He can do anything he wants." Ahem. After pondering for a while, the Lord thought that it was as if he had missed a billion opportunities by returning to skeletal form. Even so, he still wanted to punish Woof Goof, so he ordered Meow Meow to wake her up. When Woof Goof got up, she saw her master and was very happy. It's really great to have him with them again. And with happiness she jumped on him again. So his soul came out of his physical shell again. To prevent this from happening again, Meow Meow tied it on a rope and hung it from the ceiling. After collecting the Lord's bones, she hoped that Lordly Tian could rise again. Half an hour later, he resurrected again. The skeleton body is very fragile and vulnerable. But after it disintegrates, it will go into a spiritual state and can be resurrected in about half an hour. The condition for resurrection is contact with the bones. The bones must not be buried in the ground, it will affect the time of resurrection. After thinking about this situation, the master took the sword that was hanging on his wall and wanted to cut the Woof Woof so that such unforeseen situations would not happen again. But Meow Meow once again stood up for her friend and said that she had already realized her mistake. As they were dealing with Woof Woof, someone knocked on the door. It was a little girl with a huge club behind her back. She was looking for the elder's house, and if they didn't open the door for her, she would break it down. Meow Meow was displeased with the behavior of the intruder. She asked who dared to trespass on the domain of the demonic palace of hatred. But she was immediately stopped by the master. Outside the palace is the largest array in the world, formed by combining 7 by 7 and 49 other smaller arrays. It is impossible for ordinary people to enter here. It is not easy for a person to appear here. It seems that behind the door must be the strongest man in the world. Then Meow Meow suggested they escape through the back door. But there is only one main entrance in this palace. Moreover, this guest is only one of 10,000, and he can't become a threat to the venerable Li Tian. Well then, let him go and kill him, right now, suggested Meow Meow. But the master immediately began to scold her, because now he is just a skeleton that will collapse at one touch. If she has time to show off here, then let her hurry up and get him a cloak of scarlet shadow that improves his defense. As he told her this, a door flew in their direction. It was a terrifying force that would easily crush him in his skeletal state. So he immediately came up with the best possible plan of response. When the girl with the big club entered the room, she saw Tian and Meow Meow. She thought that the door was not opened for her because they were making love. Then the master turned around and asked her, "Sis, you broke my formation and broke into my demonic hate palace, and then you also broke down the door. Why did you do that?" Then the girl replied that she was here to find Gua Bi. The master replied that he's not Gua Bi, so don't be silly. He became a demon lord through strength, not through summoning. Then, if they encounter a suspicious skeleton monster, they should shout her name out loud to Wu Yu. She's a professional exorcist for her, destroying 1 or 2 skeletons shouldn't be too difficult. The girl apologized for breaking their door and said she would put it back. But Mr. Tian could not bear such humiliation. Does she take him, Tian, the master of the demonic hate palace, for a second-rate person? They showed their true faces: 2 demon dogs and a skeleton demon. It looked like it was Gua Bi after all. After realizing that he had been unmasked, he was shocked that he, the strongest of the venerable demons, couldn't resist such a ridiculous provocation. The girl wasted no time in picking up her cudgel, and since he had deceived her, he would receive full credit for it. Tian tried to stop her. She could fight him. But, in any case, he is also the master of one of the 7 demonic hate palaces. He is the lord of the demonic hate palace, and she can't change his name. He won't even let her think that he is Gua Bi. So far, he has tried to lie to her. She wouldn't even believe it if he said he was a local lord. Then Master Tian replied that he wasn't lying to her. And he is not Gua Bi. Before he started the fight, he should give her, the ignorant girl, an understanding of what was going on. He pulled out the certificate for the palace and the certificate of ownership and showed the girl. These documents confirmed that he was the owner of this palace and his name was Tian. But the girl still didn't believe it. Who could confirm that he wasn't lying to her? Then the master began to prove that he wasn't lying. He explained that the palace of hate had a seal on every brick, that it was a demonic palace of hate. But the girl still didn't believe it. Even if it is a demonic palace of hate, how can he prove that he is the owner of the place? Maybe the owner of the place was killed by him and the land documents were stolen. Then Tian angrily looked at the girl, pointing his finger at the certificate, and said that she could compare the fingerprint. But after all, he is a skeleton, how can she compare? Then he summoned the spirit of the heavenly contract, established by the administration of the demon land. Here, if the host had not been him, the spirit would not have appeared. After so much reasoning and effort by Tian, the girl believed. And now that she knows his name is Tian, they were ready to fight, but the girl said that since he was Tian and not Gua Bi, she had no reason to fight him. She hung back her cudgel, took the door and went to put it back. But the demon dogs were unhappy with this behavior from the Lord. Then the Lord explained to them that she had an ancient artifact hanging on her back. If a fight broke out, the result would be hard to predict, after all, his current state. And then he remembered that he was in this state because of Wolf Goof. And he had not yet forgotten his desire to punish Wolf Goof for it. At this time, the girl who was already approaching the exit with the door on her shoulder, the name Tian, seemed very familiar to her. She remembered what order the head had given her. This time her task was to eliminate the skeleton demon and the demon dog. She should get rid of them and come back. And he also told her to avoid a guy named Tian. When she sees him, she must not fight him, but just run away. The girl was confused, although there was no fight, but she also ran away. Does that count as disobeying orders? Meanwhile, Wolfgoof was already tied up and the Lord wanted to proceed with the punishment.